Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ben Moskalensky, and welcome to the Ben Moskalensky Show every Saturday between 3 and 4 p.m. Los Angeles time. Our first topic today is going to be on YouTube, more specifically a YouTuber known as Onision. Maybe you heard of him, maybe you haven't. I believe he's clocking in around half a dozen million subscribers, so he is relatively famous. People were asking to either do more on FouseyTube or Keemstar or Logan Paul. FouseyTube, I think I've covered a lot of it for now. I want to go more into FouseyTube, but I want to take it on later because there's a lot left, and I just feel like I'm not adequately prepped yet to go into it. As for Keemstar, I despise and adore Keemstar, and there are reasons for this. Recently, I've been leaning more against Keemstar than towards, but it's extremely complicated, all the situation, all the whole thing around Keemstar. So whenever Keemstar comes back up in the news, I think that's when I'm going to go into it so I can cover what's currently going on and past statements, so it's fresher in everybody's mind. As for Logan and Jake Paul, no. Just no. If there's enough demand for it, maybe one day, one cold day in hell, but not as of yet. No, I don't see myself having a Jake Paul segment on the Ben Moskalensky Show. But yes, right now we are talking about YouTubers, more specifically Onision. So let's give a brief history of Onision. Onision has 3 separate channels, each of which have about 2 million subscribers, again, approximately. And primarily, even though he does vlogs and talks about his life and talks about other things as well, he is primarily a quote-unquote comedy YouTuber. And he makes all kinds of absolutely hilarious comedic sketches. Most famous of which, I believe, is the I'm a Banana song, where a grown man, who at this point is 20-something, I believe, between 25 and 30, I believe, maybe a bit under 25, but right around, complete quote-unquote maturity has been reached. Wearing a banana costume and singing while moving his body around back and forth, singing the words, I'm a banana, I'm a banana. Yep. Now, okay, I don't want to make it sound like this is all Onision does. He has made other sketches, some of which are actually not too horrible. He works with a YouTuber I personally like a lot. I am Seer is his name. At least I haven't found any reason to dislike him yet. But yeah, I really like Seer. If you guys are looking for a more mature kind of comedy deal without being some rated X movie, I'd recommend I Am Seer on YouTube. About 400K. Best episode of Drama Alert was hosted by him. So yeah. Sorry if you're listening, Keemstar. So that it seems like a fairly basic premise, but you see, remember what I said earlier? Onision has 3 YouTube channels. I'm actually about to look up all 3 of them so I can give specific names so you guys can go look at it and fact check me because I would be I believe the term is a hypocrite, or at least very biased, if I didn't do anything like this. I mean, if I didn't allow you guys to look at my own facts. So let's see here. Onision Speaks, one of his channels. That's, I believe, his more personal channel where he talks about stuff regarding his own life and his own personal opinions. Then there's Uh-Oh Bro, where he does it's kind of like a middle ground between Onision and Onision Speaks. He doesn't quite do all his skits and everything. It's partially serious. He does give his real opinions, but he answers quizzes, I think. Yeah. YouTube comedian, I'm reading off the description. YouTube comedian Onision digs through the internet and comments, parodies, and picks apart human failures, anime, cutting emos. So yeah, really, really cool sounding stuff. Apparently, he also has a music album. Why? Anyways, yeah, yay. Oh, Hold up. Okay, turns out I was wrong. Apparently, you have to pay money to watch his channel. This cannot be real. Yep. I was not informed about this until recently. So, bro. Onision Speaks, you can view those for free. But if you want to see the creator of I Am a Banana, you have to pay $50 a month. But apparently you can start a free trial. Wow. That's really interesting. Yeah, so that's Onision. I've never heard of a channel you have to pay to see other than YouTube Red stuff, but okay, that's Onision's decision. I'm not gonna fault him for that. Now, I have several problems with Onision. And some of these issues are more broad issues, some of these are more narrowed down. But if any of you would like to talk about this or ask any questions, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Excuse me, sorry about that. Without interruptions by burp this time, the number is 719-2. My brain exploded. 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. The only other thing that could have gone wrong there was me sneezing. I actually feel like I'm about to. So, anyways, as I was saying, again, our topic is Onision for anyone who'd like to pitch in, talk about Onision. Now, let's start with one of the less broad topics. Sadly, I think it's about a year ago now, a pop star, very young pop star, big idol for young girls, she passed at some sort of a concert, not of natural cause. It was some idiot with a gun, who just started shooting and shot her. And the doctors just fatally tried, the doctors really tried to bring her back, and like it was a multi-hour process, and it was just like a really sad deal. And people across the internet, or girls who looked up to her as an idol, started making videos like, I'm praying for your safety, or like, your songs inspired me, or you inspired me, or all these different things. And it's like this really kind of touching community moment. And sadly, she did not make it out. I believe her name was Christina Grimmie. I'm not completely sure. Something of the sort. You can look up Onision and Popstar, probably find it. And you know, Onision, if he would have either not commented on this or given his support, even if he like did not know about this and just decided he didn't want to touch on the issue because it was too depressing for him or something like that, if he would have done either of these things, I would have no problems with Onision. I would not be talking about this right now. But instead of this, he goes onto Twitter and he starts insulting the fans and even members of her family. Well, supposedly the one where he insulted the brother of her while she was undergoing surgery. Supposedly that was, quote, just satire. But everything else where he completely assailed like all kinds of people on Twitter and everything, just went on a, I don't even know how many tweet long, I think it's dozens, like double digits of tweet long rampage on these people who were just like who were just hoping for an idol that they love to make it out okay. And he's just doing this despicable thing just to support a political message. That is right, you did not hear me wrong. See, Onision, one of the big points on his channel is the fact that he is and he actually talks about this a lot on his I believe it's Bro and Onision Speaks, the fact that his political beliefs are highly liberally oriented. And to narrow down what I just said to one sentence, he's a social justice warrior. Even though his opinion changes every other couple days. You can look at some of his videos, it's insane. I mean, he makes a video saying like something along the lines of like, there is inequality, we need to raise the wage, women's wages, we gotta, you know, make salaries equal. Then he makes another video saying, I'm not a feminist. He thinks that feminism is dumb, and like this was like a couple days span between each of these videos. Like, it makes no sense. But while he was going on these Twitter ramblings, he said that his main point as to why he was doing this was like a family in Pakistan, I believe an innocent family, but I don't know the entire story because he did not provide context. An innocent, or supposedly innocent, family in Pakistan, again, I don't know the details of the story, you'll have to look into this yourself, was murdered the same week, I believe, like a couple of days before this happened. And his point was that nobody sparked, nobody was outraged by this, and yeah, just the fact that nobody was outraged by this deal in Pakistan, but because of this celebrity, then things go wrong. And this is such a hypocrite. Not only is this like the scummiest thing on earth to do, and even calling, whether or not be it satire, calling out the brother of this pop star who sadly passed. Not only is that one of the scummiest things that could possibly be done, but then he, on his Onision Speaks, he talks about events in his life, which, whatever, he's a vlogger, but like, some of them are important. I don't dispute the fact that some of the stuff he goes over in his Onision Speaks, like, some of it is actually important, and YouTube, for a lot of people, not for me personally, for a lot of people, it's a coping mechanism, like to go out and be able to talk to your viewers. And this, in my view, it's totally okay, but you can't be berating someone. You can't be berating someone who is dying, and meanwhile go and talk about your relationship issues like it's the biggest thing on earth on your Onision Speaks channel. Which brings up a broader point of mine. We've already covered the fact that he's an insensitive idiot. That his content isn't that funny, at least sometimes. Certainly none of his more popular content is funny. And the fact that he's extremely offensive, and hopefully before the segment ends, I'll have time to come up with another deal. But also the fact is there's some very weird stuff going on with it. So Onision, he's like most normal people, he's married, he's married to, I forget the lady's name. I believe it's his second marriage. Okay, also completely normal. Divorces, things don't work out. That's totally normal. If you look at his Onision Speaks channel, it's apparently they have another girlfriend. Like, apparently his wife started dating another lady. And it's not so much the issue of an affair that really makes it weird. It's just kind of the fact that Onision's okay with this, and the three of them, I suppose they're in a relationship. Like, that's as far as I understand it. I don't want anything of that matter on my YouTube search history, so you're just gonna have to look up Onision dating, I guess. But it's just very weird, because there's been all kinds of weird stuff going on. And apparently there were some apparently, like, one of them doxed, I believe, Onision's girlfriend. Yes, girlfriend doxed Onision, then Onision doxed her. And it's a very weird how it's going on. I'm not sure how this is working, but it's a very weird situation. And another thing, this is on his Onision Speaks. So this is another thing. He is extremely sensitive. That's fine. Some people are sensitive. Like, that's not an issue. And be it this thing in particular is weird, at the very least. Then he goes on to his Onision channel, his normal Onision channel. You got to keep tabs on this, everybody. You gotta follow the Onision lore, or else you're gonna get left behind. So he goes on to his Onision channel, where he does his comedy sketches, and he makes a video, an extremely heartfelt, extremely sensitive sounding video. And in the end of the video, it shows him he's getting into his car in his garage, and he turns on the engine, but he doesn't start moving. He says, like, life is no longer worth living. And he turns on the engine, and the video ends. And at no point in the video does he say this is satire. Only in the description. At least he didn't bury it. I'll give him that much. He didn't bury it. But he did this as a comedy sketch. That's not something you joke about. At least not to the extent he does. You don't make an entire video just with this, like, he was actually crying in the video. And it's just insane to me how someone can be that insane. But 6 million subscribers. This isn't some whatever on the street. This is 6 million subscribers. I mean, this is just insane. But that's just my personal opinion. Every story has two sides. I think there's definitely more to bring up with Onision. I think I will be doing at least one more, possibly two more segments on Onision. And I know I can have at least two more segments on FouseyTube and other YouTubers. Like, this whole YouTube thing is, I'm not disappearing. The segment is not disappearing. It just, I forgot about it for a bit, and I'm gonna bring it back now because this segment was actually really interesting. But anyways, we are now moving on to our second segment, which is going to be on the Journal of the Survivor. I'm going to explain why I brought this up. Don't worry, I'm not publishing it yet. We're under 20% through the book, so I'm not publishing it yet. Don't worry. I am fairly fast with my books, but come on, nobody is that fast. But first, I need a sip of water. Thank you for the wait, everybody. The number, if anyone would like to call in, talk about the Journal of the Survivor, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now, moving on to our next segment, which is the Journal of the Survivor. So those of you who don't know, and I'll try to be quick with my recap this time, the Journal of Survivor is my first and personal favorite book series of mine. I'm currently working on the second Journal of Survivor, which you can go find on my Google Plus account. It's on a collection. Every single first draft version of the post, every single part of the first draft, which I make available to the public, is viewable completely free, no download, no nothing. Just Journal of the Survivor collection, or Journal of Survivor 2 collection on Google Plus. And it basically takes place in the year 22. Well, this one takes place in the year 2210. It's a first-person book from the perspective of Hannah Holloway. And by the way, before I go in any further, I haven't really given any spoilers because this is revealed immediately. Spoiler alert. Please, either, if you're listening to this live, either skip this segment and come back during the free-for-all, which is going to be going live in 13 minutes. Or, if you don't care about spoilers, you can stick around. Or if you're listening to this after the fact, you can just skip ahead to around halfway through. At which point the spoilers will be gone. But if you don't care about spoilers, or if you're not planning on reading the book and you just kind of want to listen to me ramble on, feel free to stay. And call in, because again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. So it's a first-person book from the perspective of a 10-year-old girl, Hannah Holloway. It takes place 43 years after a Third World War, or it's pretty much an Armageddon situation. Nobody has won the war. The U.S. did not retaliate in time to enable to win the war, but they also did not let the Japanese, which were the primary fighters, they did not let the Japanese come back and win the war. It was basically a lose-lose all around. And with this, you know, this is years later when the world is kind of at least partially at peace. And Hannah Holloway, originally, the U.S. government wanted to protect a certain percentage of the population that wouldn't survive. They, like, 1% of the population was saved by going into underground safes. Well, not underground, but like they're buried in canyons and stuff. So they can actually get out when the radiation passes. So radiation, the radiation, you know, they stay in for a long time because, you know, nuclear bombs and everything. And it doesn't go across the whole world, but a big portion of it. But only 1% of the world is saved. And Hannah Holloway, or at least she thinks she was part of that 1%, or rather her father, Max Holloway, was. The thing is, at one point there's a breach in the safe, and long story short, they're forced to leave, both Hannah and her dad. Hannah tries to find her dad, but sadly, Max gets killed. And throughout the book, there are many different subplots. This was the first major plot, but there were other plots, one of which was with Oliver Crone, feuds with Oliver Crone. They were always they seemed to be on the opposite side of everything, even though they were very similar in personality traits and backstory. The thing is, Hannah never had a reason to kill. And that's actually a big part of the book. Hannah's golden rule is she will not kill anybody. She'll do anything she can to save people from death. She does not believe in death at all. Whereas Oliver Crone is this extremely, like, he kills when he wants to, and he doesn't feel bad about it kind of person. So one plot is they almost always typically seem to be enemies, but in this book they're friends, and I'm about to explain why. Another plot is with Jonathan Crone, Oliver's brother, who, while Oliver was in a guilt trip because he felt responsible for the death of his best friend, again, long story on that, John basically stole his entire criminal empire from under him, John being only 3 years older, and has moved it to Seattle. Meanwhile, there's another plot. Yes, the original Journal of the Survivor was 650 pages long. I had a lot of time and a lot of space. Meanwhile, there's also OPS, OPS, which was an AI developed by Oliver Crone, or partially developed by Oliver Crone, which later betrayed him. Later being in the first Journal of Survivor. By the time Journal of Survivor 2 comes around, which is a year after the events of the first Journal of Survivor, Ops has already betrayed Oliver, and Oliver is aware of this. And that's pretty much the plot right now. So Hannah and Oliver are, well, Hannah and her, there are more people involved. Like there's Hannah's best friend and the cousin of Hannah's best friend, and there's a team. Let's just say that there's a team. And the team, it's not a huge team. Trust me, I didn't want to make it some big, Skyrim-esque book, but the team, they're forced to move over to Seattle, and they or Washington State. And right now, primary objective is to take John Crone out of power. Oliver's on a revenge streak. I actually called the 3rd chapter of my book Oliver's Revenge, because Oliver's going around killing everybody. And Oliver's like, he's just super triggered. And as he works his way up through the criminal underground to at least get to the point where he can go back to his brother, he's like killing everybody behind him. Like he's not tying up loose ends, he's burning the rope. That's a line from Shooter. That is not my line. But yeah, he's just like ascending to power. He's and they're about to try to get into the Space Needle, which is the biggest hotel/casino in the entirety of Seattle. There's going to be an entire process of how they try to get into the Space Needle, but that's where I'm on right now, because they just got out of the 2nd biggest hotel, the Olive. And so their primary objective right now is to try and get to John before his criminal empire grows too big, and he basically takes over the biggest crime hub in Seattle. I'm sorry, the biggest crime hub in the world, or one of the biggest, which is Seattle, Washington. Meanwhile, Ops has kind of been laying low. Like Ops was very vibrant back in the first Journal of the Survivor, trying all kinds of things. But see, Hannah developed a counter AI, Max, in order to but using the same source code as in Ops, and Ops is basically, or Max is basically like the counter to Ops. So Max is kind of like their guardian angel throughout the book. So those are all the main plots right now. But right now they're not really worried about Ops, and they actually kind of forgot about Ops. Right now it's all about Jonathan Crone. And the reason I decided to do this was because of entry 140. And yes, I'm continuing from the first book. I have not written 140 entries in this one alone. I believe, yes, the number is only at 17 entries I've written for Journal of Survivor 2, and 123 I wrote for Journal of Survivor 1, which is the entirety of the last book. Wow, that was a mouthful. I gotta fade it off halfway there. But the reason I decided to do this segment was because there were some huge things revealed about the Crone family. First of all, the fact that Oliver's father is alive. Which was a huge shocker for everybody, and I wanted to keep that low. He was referred to as the management of the Olive, and Oliver does, again, spoiler alert, kill him, due to the fact that he was responsible for all the bad things that happened in Oliver's past. And by the way, another thing, Oliver is actually kind of torn up about whether or not to kill John. Hannah is convinced to stop him from killing John. And she's tried to like peacefully she's tried to convince him, and he basically told her that he's going to kill her if she ever brings up the subject of sparing him. But it's visible that he's not entirely sure whether or not he's actually going to kill John. It's a big debate in the book, and he's just not sure if he's going to do it because John helped him develop the original empire and was a brother to him. But you see, here's the thing. Oliver was adopted. I know, kind of sounds like a boring soap opera, but I make it way cooler in the book. John was not, and turns out there are 4 biological kids in the Crone family. Jonathan, another brother, and 2 sisters. Whereas Oliver was adopted. We don't know why as of yet. Brian was killed before Oliver could ask any of those other questions. Again, not going to go into too much detail on that. But there's so many things that have recently been revealed. And also the fact that the only reason you know about this, because again, it's a first-person book, is because Ops gave Hannah the information because she wanted to know what was going on because the building was set on fire. And she just could not figure out why. And she knew Oliver was involved somehow because even though he was sleeping on the 1st floor, his room was on the 1st floor. The fire started on the 36th, and Oliver had burned clothes. So there was definitely something going on. Whereas even some people who were on higher levels, like I believe Hannah was on the 25th floor, she got out without a scratch, no problem. So there's definitely some weird stuff going on. So the thing is, right now, Ops is kind of a blackmailing situation. But the thing is, Ops hasn't really demanded anything yet. And Oliver is just going to kill Hannah because Oliver already tried to kill Hannah once after she just asked about it. So it's kind of a blackmail situation, but we don't know what Ops is going to do yet. Many people think that Ops is doing something underground, like Ops is planning on toppling John. And then, kind of like taking over where the blank space is, and then Journal of the Survivor 3 is going to be all about like Oliver and Ops fighting for power. I want to reveal this. The only thing I'm going to reveal here is the fact that you are close. That is a pretty fair assessment. And by the way, most people think that John is going to die. That's maybe. I don't want to reveal that because that's going to be a big one. Jonathan Crone might die. Or maybe he won't. But one thing I can guarantee is whatever happens to John, it's going to be satisfying. Because I specifically wanted to make John Crone one of those characters that you just love to hate. And I think I did a really good job of that because as the book goes on and as you see more and more of John, you just hate him more and more and more. And that's kind of the point. You were not supposed to like John Crone. Oliver Crone. Oliver Crone is this horrible villainous guy, but he's like a charity donor, and he's actually a fairly nice guy in some instances. Like he's one of those guys that he's kind of like the Walter White of Journal of the Survivor. You either love to love him, love to hate him, hate to love him, or hate to hate him. It's one of those, like, you can feel any way you want about Oliver Crone, and you're gonna be right, because that's kind of how I modeled him. Many people are also thinking that for some reason or another, Hannah's golden rule is going to be broken due to the fact that we now know that Brian Crone is the name of Oliver's father, and her own dad had some relations, and that there's going to be some reveal where it turns out that John is in some way responsible. Because we know that John is like deeply tied into the Crone family, of course. So many people think that Hannah is actually going to be the one who kills John. Very interesting theory. That's actually the most popular theory in Journal of Survivor by far right now, is that Hannah is going to be the one who kills Jonathan. So read the book for yourself or read what's currently available. Give me your assessment. I like to fact check people, but if their facts are solid, I can't always deny it. But I typically don't like to confirm unless I'm doing like a Q&A. Anyways, it's through. I'm gonna give out one more phone number call. To see if anybody would like to call in as we move into our third segment, which is gonna be free for all. And I'm actually gonna talk about some of the stuff regarding the next segment, which I think is going to be pretty cool. But if anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now moving on to our third segment, which is once again a free-for-all segment. So you can talk about anything you want, as long as it's not totally out there inappropriate or something. And yes, that also counts prior topics. You can talk if you thought that like I missed something on Onision, or you thought Onision was an interesting story or something, or you've heard something cool in news that you want to talk about, any of those things, you want to talk about any of that, call in the show, feel free to do so. Because again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Quick sip of water. And back to it. All right, so one thing I thought was interesting was my next segment on the show is going to be a Tell Me a Funny Story segment. Maybe in the future I will narrow it down, depending on the popularity of this segment. But I was thinking that this would be a cool one, because I've never really had something like this. Because in all of my prior segments, it would always be a deal where I talk about something and people always pitch in. But in this segment, maybe other people talk and I pitch in. I'd like to see how it works, and I can still tell some of my own very interesting, preferably pretty short. Like, don't tell the story of your life, please. Like, please keep it down to a couple minutes so we can talk about it. But some pretty interesting stories that we can go over. You know, some funny stories that you can tell. Just a couple laughs, because we've been talking about some fairly serious topics in this show. On this one specifically with Onision, who is Onision, and of course, you know, Journal of the Survivor, which is not exactly quite as light as Hero of the First Islands. So I have high hopes for that segment, pretty high hopes. But we'll see how it goes, and then I'll ask people if they like the idea of the segment. I'll ask people if they want it to be narrowed down to something more specific, like awkward moments at a prom, stories regarding animals, stories with family or friends, stuff like that. But that's not this segment. I mean, we could do part of it in this segment, but only if people would like to. Again, this is our free-for-all segment where we can talk about anything. One thing I actually want to talk about is the fact that right now I have a tier list going on. And I know that sounds confusing, but hear me out. In celebration of me beating Zero's Cloud, for those of you who don't know, Zero is the world's best Super Smash Bros. 4 player, and a long time ago, I don't know why I'm celebrating this now, but a while back, I beat his 4th main being Cloud. And I really wanted, and I actually told myself that one day I wanted to beat top 10, or one of the people in the top 10, one of their top 3s. So I get the world's best, but I only get to play against his 4th before he leaves, and I still actually win against his 4th. But still, beating Zero's Cloud is no small triumph. I'm actually very happy that I was able to do it at some point. And honestly, with the way I was playing against him, I might have even been able to beat a Sheik or Lucina. So Zero, if you're listening, or if anyone who knows Zero is listening, we can get in contact with them. If you ever see Bennis Swag, Sanic, or .exe on 4 Glory, you got to stick around for more than one game, and you got to play with, you know, either Diddy, Lucina, or Sheik. Because in all honesty, I'm not going to beat Zero's Diddy. I'm not going to. Maybe his Lucina and Sheik, maybe them. Probably not even his Lucina, but hopefully at least his Sheik. Or at least I can hopefully beat his Cloud again. Hopefully I can beat any of his even anything. Because, you know, Zero is extremely good. That's why he's the best in the world in Super Smash Bros. 4. Sorry, I have to cut everybody. I want to see if it's leading or not. But yeah, I started my own tier list because Zero did this at one point, and I didn't want to put together an entire video and really crunch it down. So once a day, and I'm going to be taking breaks some days, but once a day, I will come out with one character, and I'm going from very bottom to very top. I am not counting me characters, but I am counting DLC characters. So it leaves 55 characters, a grand total of 55 days of work, where I go into an analysis of every single character. So not surprisingly, and again, I'm not basing this off my own tier. I mean the real tier list for Super Smash Bros. 4. I'm basing this off of the my own personal thoughts on each character. Sometimes it will align, sometimes it will not. As an example, 55 being Jigglypuff. Again, not counting Mii Fighters, Jigglypuff would be 55th on the tier list. And she is on mine as well. She's at the bottom of the F tier. It is pretty sad. And that was what I did yesterday. And honestly, it's actually kind of funny. At the beginning of that post, and again, you can go find that on my Nintendo collection, same account and everything. The first sentence is, I tried. I really tried. But Jigglypuff is, in fact, at the bottom of this tier list. And I really honestly did. I wasn't kidding when I did that. I did not want to be so typical like everyone else and say that, oh, Jiggly's the worst. But Jiggly is the worst. Jigglypuff is the worst character in the game. And I go into an analysis of why Jigglypuff is so bad in that post. Meanwhile, today I moved up to 54. And I decided to make Pac-Man my 54th or second worst character in the game. So middle of the F tier, which is still not good. So I talked about why Pac-Man is so bad in that one. And yes, I know I did an episode of Your Glory with Pac-Man. That made me see why Pac-Man is not very good, at least on the tier end of things. I think in my F tier, my only really controversial decision will be my next decision. Because I think 52, 53, 52, 54, and 55 people can get behind. And I'm numbering the tier list like the real deals actually do. Like F tier has 4, E tier has 11, D tier has like 6 or something. I forget the number for that one. B and C have 11. D, okay, so I'm looking at it right now. D has 6. A has 6 as well, except for the fact that they don't. Sorry, A has 8, and S has 4, just like the real deal. Again, with the exclusion of Mii characters. But yeah, I'm going to be releasing the results for my third worst character in the game tomorrow. And this is the only one I think people will really have a problem with, because 52 is good to get behind, 54 is pretty good to get behind, and 55 is good to get behind. People will probably be mad that my S tier isn't exactly the same as the real S tier, like, but then again, my F tier isn't exactly the same. And those, funny enough, those are the ones that are more similar to the actual tiers. Again, some of it will align, some of it will not align. Like, it really just depends on how I feel about a character. It doesn't necessarily always not have to align or something. That's not like a rule. I just did it regarding to my own thoughts and feelings without even glancing at the tier list in order. And I did take everything into accountability while making this tier list. And I moved up some much deserved characters. Like I'm gonna check my top tier right now. I moved up some much deserved characters who are really good. Like, I moved up Sonic, I moved up Pikachu, I moved up Luigi, and I moved up Toon Link and Greninja, like, from just a couple examples from where they typically were, whereas I moved down some characters that didn't deserve what they got. Like, I moved down Pit, Peach, and Lucario, just as an example. But I'm not going to specify how much, because that doesn't really count as a spoiler. I was actually looking through the tier list, which I have already completely ready in order and everything on Google Plus, or I'm sorry, on my docs, which is not currently publicly available. I will be doing compilation posts if anyone's wondering. Like for F tier, I'll be doing one. For E tier, I'll be doing one. And then for bottom tier in general, I'll just be combining both of them and copying and pasting everything. Will that be a pain? Yes, but every time I finish a tier, be it grand or minor, I will be taking a break and I will be combining. So, like, after I finish my F tier, I'll be taking a 4-day break. After I finish E tier, I'll be taking a 26-day break, because of the fact that E tier by itself, that's 11. low tier is 15, and again, 1 is each day, 15 plus 11, 26. And then I get right back to it on 27th, 26 days after the first day of break. So like I have an entire schedule planned out for this thing, because doing one every day with no breaks or anything, if I'm gonna do like a real good analysis, like that's not gonna be happening really. I mean, let's be honest here, like that's gonna be extremely hard. But if I do some work deals and then I take a couple days break and I do some more work and a couple days break and so on, I think it's gonna work out much better for everybody. Once I finish this tier list, like typically with some things, like I have follow-up projects, like I mean, what could I possibly do for a follow-up on this one? Like I mean, sure, maybe I could do the other games, but I'm not really playing Melee, the original, or Brawl. So it would, plus I haven't like done anything to deserve that. Like I haven't, you know, beaten the world's best player, even not as their best character, but still pretty impressive. Like I haven't done anything like that. Now it wasn't necessarily Zero. It could have been a Zero clone, just like the tag was the same. But you know, again, impossible to tell. And I don't know his account name, so, and I forgot the account name on that one since I only saved the replay. Actually, I'm not even sure if I saved the replay. I'm also not sure. Like I know right now that Zero's 4th is Cloud, and I'm actually gonna double check this right now. But I'm not sure like at the time, because at the time this is only 2 months or a month after Cloud came out. So it's kind of I didn't know how good he was at the time. So yeah, so his main, of course, is Diddy Kong, his second is Lucina, third is Sheik. Then it's Cloud and Falcon. That's his top 5. All main is Meta Knight. His melee main is Fox. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But I mean, yeah, and it looks like he's retired from Project M, Brawl, and Melee. He's only still doing SSB4. And honestly, good for him, because let's be fair, if Nairo's Bowser, if Nairo's second main can pretty easily defeat your main, you need some work, man. Even though you're still the world's best, you're not the best around. I was also thinking of possibly over the summer going to Super Smash Con. Like, I mean, this is just a thought, but like that would be a cool place to go over the summer, to the Super Smash Con. So I'm gonna be training my Falcon, because let's be fair, if I ever meet Fatality, I'm done. I'm done if I ever meet Fatality. And man, I don't want to meet Fatality. That would be terrifying. Same with Nairo and Ally. Although I think it would be cool to meet Zero and Sam and all those units, and some of the less known ones who are underrated in my view, like Lord Mix. He's very good. His Bowser is exceptional in my view. Arguably better than Nairo's. I mean, I like Nairo's more personally, but it's not necessarily one. No, most people probably think Nairo's is better, but still, if you want to find a good Bowser, look up Lord Mix. His Bowser is top game, very nice, very nice. And I'm hoping if I do go to Super Smash Con at any point, not to play any Bayonettas, because no. I mean, beating a Bayonetta on For Glory, like I save a replay every time I beat a Bayonetta or Cloud on For Glory, because like it's such a monumental task for me just to beat a Bayonetta or a Cloud, regardless of how good or bad they're. I mean, unless they're just absolutely terrible. But let's be fair. Almost every time you come across a Bayonetta or a Cloud on For Glory, it's terrifying. Especially when like either the Bayonetta knows how to do the up B, or the Cloud immediately starts charging limit. Like either of those things, you know that they're gonna be good, and it terrifies you immediately. Which makes it all the more satisfying if you can actually beat them. Especially with a character that's not as good. Like it's one thing if it's a Bayonetta Ditto or a Cloud Ditto, but when you go up against the Bayonetta, or actually better yet, if you go up against the Cloud as Captain Falcon, like it's really cool when you can beat them. Or as Mac, like that's really something. Anyways, we're wrapping up our free-for-all section. If anyone would like to call in, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. And we are now moving on to our final segment, which is going to be on stories. I'm going to be on some pretty funny, fairly short stories. So if anyone has some cool stories they'd like to share with us or with me, and all those listening, please make sure to call in and share your story, because I mean, we at least hopefully if it's short and funny, and if it's not short, summarize. If it's or at least just get to the part that's funny pretty quickly. And if it's not funny, don't tell it. This is I want this to be lighthearted, man. Like this isn't deep. So if anyone would like to call and talk about that, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Sorry last time about all the spam callers and everything. Doesn't look like we're gonna be having any spam callers this time. But it would be cool if any of you know any spam callers, please tell them not to spam call people in general, and don't tell them about my show in case they don't listen to me. Please don't. If you want to tell a legit friend or family member who is of age to call in the show between 8 and 18 preferably, feel free to do so. I'd love that. But no one above the age of 18, please, first of all. And second of all, no spammers, including you. Spam isn't funny. You want to, whatever, April Fools, as long as it's not entirely brain dead, go for it. Otherwise, no. Please, no. I'm going to look up what day April Fools is of 2018, see if I can even do an episode on April Fools. April Fools is a Sunday. So no spam calls. Now I'm going to look up April Fools 2019. And meanwhile, let's get into our segment, which is once again stories. So the first thing I kind of wanted to bring up was, okay, yeah. So no one calling with a spam call until April 1st, 2023, which is the last year of my show, assuming I keep it on. I believe, yeah, that would be the last year of my show, at least with me as a host. So one story I'd like to share. I'm gonna start off with sharing stories until we get more callers coming in. One story I'd like to share is, I can't even think of where to start. Let's start with the dissecting of the pig. I figure, and by the way, I'm getting some of these stories from my Crazy Life Stories collection. I know I've been doing a lot of self-promotion this episode, or this show, but all these things that I've been recommending to you are good, so make sure you go check them out on Google+. Ben Moskalensky account, the one that is actually still active. So yes, my Crazy Life Stories on Google+, my collection. It's actually a 3-part story due to the fact that it was several days long. So I'm just going to do some reading as a bit of a preview for all of you. So let's get started. I'm just going to read off the posts as time goes by, and we're going to see if we get if any of you guys would like to share your stories. Again, if anyone would like to, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. I have a fairly small school, about 100 families. So we have science grades 6 through 8. And some of the curriculum is same, some of it is different. I know it's weird. But 11 to 14-year-olds were allowed to get an interesting start to our anatomy segment. We had just finished our second to last segment of the year, and by far the most boring of them, ecology. Our science teacher, let's call her Miss Park. Miss Park has reminded us that we'd be dissecting in the next science class, but most of the kids forgot. We were just happy to be out of our ecology unit. Everything started out normally. 10:30 a.m., kids started filling in. It was an 11-person class, not counting Miss Park. 7 girls, 4 boys. As soon as the smell of 2 dead pigs had reached their noses, there were 9 perfectly synced ewes. Caleb and I spent a lot of time together, so we were used to the smell. Make of that statement what you wish. 2 dead pigs lay on the counter, wet, sloppy, and pale. I'm gonna get demonetized, aren't I? I'm gonna get demonetized. This isn't part of the script, everybody. YouTube's gonna demonetize me. As per usual, 2 teams. As not per usual, 1 for each pig. 5 people on my team, counting myself. 4 on the opposing team. The other 2 people backed out. One was a vegan, the other was vegetarian. That's the excuse they used. I prefer the comedically correct and morally incorrect term chicken. You see the irony in that statement? Because sadly I do. Both pigs were babies, which is a not at all depressing fact brought to us by Miss Park. I personally hope its death was swift. I'm sorry, I'm reading this right off the thing. And if any of you, we would not have time to finish off the other 2 parts of the pig dissection, or at least definitely not the 3rd one. So if you'd like to check that out for yourself, again, it's on Google+. I personally hope its death was swift. And throughout the preparations, Caleb would not cease his remarks, such as that of, how many of Shrek's onions do we need to revive it? And, or, who wants the first ear? I call dibs on his butt. And so on. I'm sorry to any of you who are under the age of 10 who are listening to this. I really apologize for any psychological scars I may be causing. Miss Park gave us all instructions, that of which she spoke and handed out via paper. Only 3 of the members of our group were brave enough to cut. Myself, Caleb, and Samantha. The other 2, let's call them Kyle and Evelyn, decided to stick solely to the question-answering aspect of the morbidly gruesome sight that had befallen us. I believe when I wrote this, I was still writing Hawker's memoirs, so that's the grammar, just to anyone who's wondering. I do, in fact, stand corrected. Evelyn did so. Kyle did not cease making jokes about it on an ongoing basis, making my job even harder. Although Samantha was not eager to cut, nor was I, Caleb was. Although, due to the fact that Caleb had, in fact, wanted to open up the stomach, and Samantha wanted to cut around the heart, both of which are the 2nd and 3rd steps, I was the first to operate. And by the way, this is all true. And I know I'm not narrowing this down to several minutes, but that is because we have a ton of time. We have 8 minutes left in the segment. And if anyone would like to stop listening to me go on about dead pigs, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. I chose the scissors. I, unlike Caleb, am not meant for this particular line of work. There were at least 2 people assisting us at the time, one of which was with one team, and the other of which was providing moral support. By the time I had my one of which was with one team. And, oh, okay, sorry. So what I meant by that was like there were 2 people who were helping each team. One was helping one team, one was helping the other. I kind of said it wrong. By the time I had my protective gear plastered upon my body, I cut from slightly below the midpoint of its stomach upwards. I hope any small children listening are getting some nice imagery. My first break, I decided, was to be when I was at odds with the bottom of the arms. My first break came much sooner. I had to be careful to make sure I did not spoil Caleb's part, or else there would be 3 bodies strewn about the room, no longer moving, and seeped of blood. On the other hand, the pig's skin, be it small, was very tough. By the time I was able to break through, liquid started pouring out of its stomach and even slightly bubbled. I smelled mass amounts of blood before, and this was at least twice as nauseating. Nevertheless, I persisted, after screaming on multiple occasions. I'm going to get sued for psychological trauma, aren't I? But anyways, water break. Sorry about this, everybody, for interrupting this stellar action we have going on. Always nice to drink water after hearing about mysterious liquids, isn't it? Think about this sentence while you're like eating dinner. Just think about like mysterious liquids that you're drinking right now. Like, you know, all that water you're drinking comes from the ocean, which is recycled dinosaur droppings, I think. I don't know. Anyways, by the time I had reached my actual checkpoint, my gloves were soaked wet with an odd liquid. Kyle had left a, quote, pleasant, unquote, surprise for me when I had reached the bottom of its chin, which had marked the half point. By the time I had reached the point, I noticed one of its eyes was open and staring blank and cold right into mine. My hands were already shaking at this point, so I proceeded to use his shoulder as a drying rack for my gloves. I'm referring to Kyle's shoulder, which were filled with dead pig germs. After finishing up an equally disgusting part of the process, directing my efforts downwards towards the near leg area, the insides were barely visible. By the time I was done, it was 11:10, 20 minutes till the end of class. I figured if Caleb's incisions and Samantha's took an equal amount of time, then we'd be good. I spent most of the remainder of the class either watching Caleb or answering questions. This would be a 3-class experience, but my questions were done in 10 minutes. So for the final 10 minutes, after firmly questioning my own sanity, I made sure no one was looking, then tiptoed my way to the other end of the class and gave re-encouraging advice to the 2 people who did not participate, and the opposing team, the majority of which I did not like. Advice such as, it had a family. The innards of its nose must taste good. That is a reference to the very first episode of our show, I know. And have you tried licking the brain yet? And that concludes the first segment of this beautifully directed anime directed by Michael Bay. If anyone would like to call in, talk about your own, interesting quote-unquote stories, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Once again, the number is 719-284-5873 with the pin 24777. Now for the dead pig story, part 2 of 3, which is 3 days later on June 2nd of this year, sadly. So the horrors are still fresh in my mind. All right, now I'm going to start reading off the post again. Looks like we'll only have time to finish off this post. If you haven't, as of yet, read the first part of this fantastic trilogy, then what are you doing with your life? Man, when you talk about dead pigs, it feels like you have a frog in your throat. I'd highly recommend doing so. Then I'd highly recommend doing so. Or else, after this paragraph is over, the spoilers will come flowing in. If you're vegan, vegetarian, or squeamish, too late. You've already seen this picture. And I do also provide imagery on my posts. And I don't really have to tell you. I will assume you guys are smart enough to figure out what the imagery is on the dead pig story. As I said, my school is very small, and I suppose when Miss Park tried to put the 2 dead pigs in our school's sole fridge, there were some complaints. Now, personally, I know Caleb, and I would be more than happy to adopt, but it wasn't a public discussion. Little Mrs. Piggy and Piglet had to be kept in the building. Now, although my school also only has 1 fridge, it has 2 freezers, one right next to the fridge, and the one Miss Park chose, the one in the math room. Yep. Not kidding. When Miss Park asked who wanted to go get the 2 transgender baby pigs, and yes, we were never able to figure out the pigs' genders, so roll with it, Caleb and I were more than eager. Our math room is in the portable near the school, whereas our science room is in the main building. The trip took a little under 3 minutes, since we didn't really want to drop the pig and wanted to stay clear of most of the little ones, referring to children beneath our own age. Although I disliked some of them, and I disliked some of their siblings, so I allowed them to get a quick sniff of the beauty. That's a secret you and I get to keep. Throughout that approximately 160-second time span, Caleb and I were in a continual state of competition in the regards of oink oink. Due to the fact that Caleb is a pig, he had an extreme advantage and therefore won our competition. He returned. I'm sorry, that was beautiful. We returned to class with our biological descendants. And due to the absolute efficiency of Caleb and I when it came to this field, we were way ahead of the rest. Now, Caleb and Samantha were dying to go first. More Caleb. But Miss Park wanted me to go first in cutting out and removing the intestines. Sorry for the occasional pause. It just brings me back these memories, kind of, stops me dead in my tracks. So after we split its stomach open, and by we, I mean Caleb, we went to work. After identifying the spaghetti-like substance, Caleb started holding the parts, attaching the intestines while I cut away. Now, Samantha was allowed to do the semi-final incisions, the reaffirms, if you will, which left me alone with the other team. Remember what happened last time? It was even worse this time. You're all horrible people. You know that's a baby, right? You do in fact realizing you are doing nowhere near as good as us. Just let its suffering end. And the list goes on and on. But of course, I was the one who had to take the intestines out. Sadly, we do not have time to finish part 3 of this anime. Thank God. Anyway, that'll conclude our Ben Moskalensky this show. Thank you everybody so much for chipping into this show and others. We're going to see what we can do for show 12. Hopefully we're going to have some more ideas. I think I'll be bringing back this format. I think this is going to go over well with people. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be bringing this format back. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining me, and have a fantastic day.